All right. Well, hey everyone, welcome to the channel and welcome to this live stream. Thank you so much for choosing to join us tonight. I know it's a little bit of an earlier stream here in the UK, but with schedules, we've managed to align this conversation. And today we've got a very exciting interview, and we're also bringing back someone to the channel we haven't had for a little bit of time. We are going to be bringing them on very, very shortly. But I'm not on this live stream alone. I've actually got a co-host with me today, and that is the one and only, the legend, Anthony A. Perez. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm good, man. Thanks so much for inviting me to join you guys. It's going to be a good time. Really looking forward to diving deep into the filmmaking behind this movie.
Right. So yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, me and Anthony got an earlier screening to Melodrive, which is by Oscar Wenman-Hyde. Again, a good friend of both ours. We've had on the channels and talked to him before. And Oscar did suggest having Anthony as kind of as this movie definitely branched out more into the US and UK market. So it makes absolute sense. So speaking of the devil, let's bring him on the stream. Here he is. It's Oscar Wenman-Hyde, writer and director, well, composer and producer as well. How you doing, Oscar?
I wasn't sure how much to put, but I thought, I got to put composer in there. That's a big part of this film, isn't it? There's a lot of music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, huge element of the movie. So yeah, I mean, it's cool to see that you're dipping your toes into each hat of the different movie field as such. So yeah, Oscar, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for coming back, man. Yeah, how are you doing?
Yeah, great. Really nice to be here. I mean, we were just talking off stream about the fact that not since my first feature cycles have the three of us been together having a chat about films, and especially a release. So it's really nice to be here. There's loads I'm sure we can go into. There's loads of fun stories of Melodrive. It was such a chaotic but joyous whirlwind. And, we're approaching 2 years next month since we shot the film. So we'll be tracing our minds back today for sure.
Wow. I can't believe it's been 2 years. That's a crazy journey.
It is, yeah. And like where the time's gone, I do not know. But I'm glad it's now finally with audiences, you know what I mean? And we can be here now talking about it. We can break it down. We can go into some of the secrets. And that's a really nice feeling.
Definitely, and I think I remember last time I had you on the channel, we couldn't really talk about it as much back when, so it'll be nice to dive into that today. But along with Oscar, we've got the director of photography, that is Joshi Lee. How are you doing, Joshi?
I'm doing ace. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's great to have you back on as well, because I know, not too long ago you had a feature, The Boy in the Corner, right? So
yeah, I did, yeah. And you both reviewed it as well. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah, really great movie. So I'd be interested to talk to you about your journey with Oscar, from how you've known him, where you've like the background with him, and then going on to Melodrive as well. So
yeah, of course. It's been an interesting one. There's a good few projects under our belt now as well.
We do.
Right. Yeah, but it's been a bit of a roller coaster for sure. And then, of course, finally we've got one of the stars of Melodrive who plays the character of Zoe, and we've got Megan Alderson.
Hey,
Megan. Hey, how are you doing, Megan?
I'm good, guys. Thank you.
Good. Well, let's start this off. I want to quickly ask, so when was the last time Oscar, Josh, and Megan, you guys saw each other in person, like when you all were in the same room?
Actually,
no, we kind of are all in each other's pockets now. We created such a wonderful relationship that me and Joshy run the Gloucester Independent Film Festival, and we had Megan and her podcast co-host Jordan come and basically host their podcast and record content at our festival in October. So we created such strong bonds that it's never very long apart, for all of us. So that's been really nice.
And the screening as well.
I was going to say we saw.
Oh yeah, that was like a month ago. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot we did that.
Plug the festival and the podcast. Yeah, go for it.
Well, yeah, that's what was on my mind. I was thinking, Megan, okay, cool. When have we seen her podcast? But we did screen Melodrive on the 18th of January. It was kind of an early exclusive screening for cast and crew and those local to Gloucester, because we shot the first block here. And most people had already seen it. Megan had already seen it the year before. But it was really nice to have pretty much like all the main people, the main crew, the main cast back in a room together to celebrate it one more time before it released. So yeah, I am wrong, but that's why I brought two people with me today, because it's good to be corrected. It's healthy.
Definitely. So yeah, so it really wasn't too long ago since you guys were all in the same room together, be able to share some memories about Melodrive in person, and also with the audience in Gloucester as well, as you mentioned with the screening. I'm going to kick this right off straight away. I'll go with the first question, and we'll probably alternate between me and Anthony with some questions for you guys and get your own personal opinions. So, what was it like to see a movie on the big screen and be like, "Wow, that's me up there"? You know, how was that feeling? Megan, we'll go for you first.
It was really odd because obviously I didn't see it until over a year later since filming.
Right.
So obviously forget what you did for a few of the scenes, and then watching it, it's just weird because obviously it's you, but it's not you. And it was my first time like seeing myself on a massive screen, so it was like a surreal experience to be like, oh, that's me.
Right.
That's crazy. I did that. And also a proud moment, not just for myself, but for everyone who was part of the film, of being like, that's what we did, guys. And I was so proud of it.
Yeah, I bet it was definitely an experience, especially as, you know, like, I know me and Anthony cover a lot of movies here on the channel, and we're constantly going to the cinema or the movie theatre. And probably for yourself, like, you know, when you've been to the cinema, you see the stars on the big screen and yourself on that big screen, you know. Yeah, awesome feeling for sure.
Yeah.
And Oscar, how about you? How was it like seeing your movie on the big screen in front of an audience of people you didn't even know at that point?
Stressful. It's never fun, actually, to be fair, like the first time. I think the first time as well, because it had been such a roller coaster to get to. I mean, it first screened at Romford Film Festival last May. So that's where everyone saw it for the first time. And it was such a long journey to get there, and then it almost didn't happen. And there was loads of other things around it. So I just wanted to get through the film more than anything. And we did, and it was a really nice experience. And it is a joyous moment to have all the people around you and to be watching it for the first time. But I think, you know, for me and Joshua, we had watched that film so many times in the edit, and in so many different like variations of it as well. So the first screening we had was really this like ideally a healing process to come to terms with this is what it is. And I'm not saying that in a way that it's not what it should be, because I love the film and stand by it, but because it went through so many different iterations in the edit, it took that moment to really settle and accept, like, yeah, that's the film, and that's the film we can be very proud of.
Right, and then seeing it and like chopping it up on like the editing, as you've said, and then seeing it on the big screen, like the final decision, final draft as such, you know, up there for everyone to see.
Exactly. And I hadn't watched it in full since like all the grade and the mix was finished, so I had not watched it leisurely since we were in post-production. So that was literally the first time. I kept thinking about it, but I was like, oh no, but I'm going to see it in a couple of months with all of those guys. So then I just never did. But like looking back, it's like, no, I should have watched that, because I was like really stressed out. And like I would never leave a cinema and go to the toilet during a film, but I went like 3 times in my own film. I was so stressed.
It's a definitely different experience for sure on the other side of it. And Joshy, how about you? Because I've always kind of been intrigued when, for example, you've been the editor of Melodrive, you know, mainly seeing this movie primarily edited on a laptop screen for months at a time, or, you know, maybe in Premiere Pro or whatever editing programs you're using. So you've seen it on this micro screen, then all of a sudden seeing it on like a huge projector. What was that experience like for you?
To be honest, it's kind of just going to echo Oscar, to be fair. Like, I think it was such a nice gap from exporting it, because I there was like a process after I'd finished my job where it went off to like a post house to get color graded and stuff. So I kind of stepped away for quite a few months before we even went to Romford. So it was kind of like that nice breakaway where I got to go through those you know, all those different iterations of seeing the film in all different kind of ways. And I wasn't really nervous until we like sat down in the cinema in Romford, and I was like, oh crap. Like, you know, we're now going to witness this with people, and people are going to have opinions and all that kind of stuff. So no, it was nice, to be fair, because normally you finish a job and it's kind of like it rolls on over. But it was kind of nice to have that breather in between. So yeah, just like step back, and then you could almost watch it as an audience member, which I really enjoyed. So
yeah, and I bet that was nice that, you know, having that break, finally done, finally finished everything, and then, as you said, as an audience, just sit back, relax, and just see your picture on screen. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Exactly that.
It was a very different experience when we screened it in January, though, because at that point, everyone like kind of had seen it that I was like nervous about. The main thing about when you screen your film for the first time, it's not that you want people to like it. For me, it was really like the core people that spent like 10 months of their life on this film. So Megan, Matt, who played Ethan, Joshy and Elliot. For me, it was those guys. I just wanted them to feel like it was worth the sacrifice of time. Do you know what I mean? Like that was the main thing I was worried about. And then really, and also just as a filmmaker, you just want it to get to the end without like a power cut or a disruption or, you know, evacuated or, you know, anything. Like that's what all is going through your mind. But that was a really nice feeling. So then when we did it in January, having known everyone was happy with their work and they liked the film and all of that, it was really just, yeah, so much more just chilled out. And the vibe in the room was so different to Romford because the weight was off. We were there literally just to enjoy it and celebrate it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then of course you've had that experience of screening for the first time. So when you guys are at like the next screening event or the next showcase event, you've had that initial, I guess, nerves kind of beaten out of you at that point because people's already, or at least some audiences already seen it by that point, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you're only stressing at that point about the power cut, but luckily, you know, it happened in January.
Right. Well, before we head over to the next question, which will be from Anthony, I just want to touch on, which I should have started at the beginning of this stream. Melodrive is available on Blu-ray. It's available on DVD for people who collect physical media. Or if you prefer the streaming option, I know the big outlet is Amazon Prime. At least here in the UK, it's on for free on Amazon Prime with the Prime subscription. Anthony, is it free in the US Amazon Prime as well? Or
I want to say so. I want to say so, yeah.
Okay, I just wasn't too sure, that's all.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's so nice to hear a little bit about the behind the scenes of the film, you know, because I think knowing Oscar and being able to kind of see, you know, the short films he's worked on and now like this is your biggest feature film that you've done so far. Oscar, I'll start with you. Like, what was the biggest challenge for you in a film that utilizes so many locations? You have music in the mix. You have to make sure that the edit matches the sync of the music and the visuals. You know, what was the biggest challenge for you taking that step up for like such a bigger feature film?
So many, but so many like more small logistical challenges that, you know, that aren't overly interesting. I mean, the thing is, like, it is a film that's got a lot of components, you know, music being a big part. But for those that don't know, like, I'm musically trained. That's what I did at uni. I've got a master's in it. So that was kind of always my life growing up. So yeah, it's got all this music in it, but that wasn't like the hardest bit because that was kind of what made this project very full circle and what motivated me to do it in the first place. But speaking of the music, I guess the hardest bit for our like core crew team, our heads of department as a whole, was like you just touched on. It was syncing the live sound. So, you know, we had Ethan and Zoe, Matt and Megan, you know, singing live, playing guitar live, but then we also had these studio backing tracks where it was like the drums, the bass, the keys, the violin that all needed to fit underneath it. So, you know, we had a click track in Matt's ear for all of that first live song, Shamefully Scold, and then for the beginning and end of Teenage Plans. So it was really about syncing up click tracks, making sure that Elliot could get the right sound. But we did so much prep. We had finished the album before we started shooting. We did a test shoot and we went to the locations and got them to perform each song so we could kind of just trial and error it. Because most of the time in music dramas, there's either a couple of fully live songs or all studio. So the idea of Melodrive is to do something different and create something hybrid. And I'm really happy with how it came off, but it definitely was the biggest challenge looking back. And I can't really remember how we pulled it off, but we feel pretty good about it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Megan, you have to carry a lot of the film on your shoulders, obviously, as like one of the main stars of the film. And you have to play this character who's like seeing a friend for the first time in a long time. And like that chemistry has to feel right for a movie to work. And I definitely feel like it did. Did you get time with Matt before you guys started filming to like really kind of feel that camaraderie with him where it felt like you were hanging out with an old friend when you were shooting those scenes? Or did you kind of have to just kind of jump into it?
Luckily, we had like the chance to either have the scenes together with Oscar or like I did a lot of the driving. So like when we needed to go and do all like record all the songs and everything like that, me and Matt would be driving. So that was like obviously 3 hours of trying to make conversation. So we actually did get to know each other like quite a deep level, which was very nice. And like even the scenes that we had to shoot at night, I remember us just being in the yellow car and just having these heart-to-hearts. Like, it was just nice. And like we just felt so comfortable. And even near the end of it, I was cleaning my flat today, and I have like a scrapbook of everything I've done, and I had my not my Polaroid, my disposable for Melodrive, and I found my card that was from Matt. That was just like really nice little message from him, and that he just felt comfortable the whole time. And I was like, and so did I. Like he was so lovely the whole time. And if we ever had any problems or anything like that, it wasn't, oh, I don't know how to say it. It was like we were completely comfortable with each other, which was really nice.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you could definitely feel that. That's one thing I really enjoyed, was that camaraderie of the two leads. You know, there was a sense of familiarity, and you guys played off of that like old friends kind of like reuniting vibe very, very well. Joshy, as the DP and the editor as well, and I guess Oscar, you can chime in here as well. Did you kind of, while you were filming sections of this movie, of course Oscar's giving you notes as far as what he wants, but are you editing the movie in your head as you're filming certain portions, and how much of that kind of collided with maybe some of the editing points that Oscar had in his mind?
Yeah, good question. I feel like as filmmakers, you're just naturally like editing as you're shooting anyway, like regardless of like where you are. But yeah, I think me and Oscar had like such in-depth conversations for months and months and months before. Like I was even signed on. Oscar was talking to me about this film, so I feel like I've known what the vision was from Oscar anyway. And I don't really remember there being a lot of conversations on set when it came to the shots. It was kind of organic in a way. There was only like a handful of times where we'd like butt heads a little bit and be like, I was thinking you should go this way or you'd go that way. But I feel like, yeah, it was really organic, and we both knew exactly what we were going for. All the suggestions and stuff when it came up with kit and all that, it was just natural choices. As soon as we knew that we had the budget for the camera and the lenses that we knew that would work for the film, it all just fell into place. And then the same when it came to the editing. I think it just laid itself out, and the only difficult part of the editing was that it was so many different styles of editing. So it was like there was like the narrative stuff, and then it would all of a sudden go into like a music video kind of edit, and then it would have to tonally flow into like the following scene. But again, because we'd had all those conversations, it wasn't like these stressful meetings with Oscar being like, "Oh, dude, what have we done? Like, how do we make this work?"
We probably had that once or twice. Let's be real.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, of course. But I mean, like, for a film like that, like if you haven't had those conversations and those meetings and stuff before, and you don't fully understand it for this kind of film, it would so easily be lost. And I think it's the same with like what was being said with Megan with the chemistry with like her and Matt. If that chemistry wasn't there between the actors, again, it would have just fell on its face. So I think it all works together, if you know what I mean, as like the team knowing what the vision is, and that all followed through into the edit. It just fell into place, basically.
Yeah, and to echo that, like it came down to trust. I mean, me and Joshy, you touched on it a little bit, Joshy, but we were talking about Melodrive since before we shot Love with Black Spots, the last short film I did. So it had existed for a long time. I mean, I was writing it as we were in rehearsals for Cycles. So like it's existed since like day one. So like, yeah, as me and Joshy got closer, it was this big thing. And it was always one of those things of like, okay, here's the plan if we can get it financed. But if we don't, here's the plan if we do it anyway, and say, screw it. So the film always had a life. But I think because we could weigh up those options so well, it really came down to, one, how organic the relationship between us was, but also how organic the project could be, because it's all set in North Devon where I grew up. I knew all of the locations. I knew how we could pull it off. I owned the yellow car. So it was all things we had access to that we could really, make something out of. So it came to and we had enough time for it to really cook, so by the time we got there, we were totally ready. And it was really just a case of elevating the vision over those final few months of pre-production rather than finding it, because we had it for a long time.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it's just really great to hear like this behind the scenes talk, because we don't get to experience that until after the project, and you can speak more openly and freely about it as well. And kind of going up behind the scenes, I've got like maybe a bit of a weird question. And this kind of goes for all of you guys. So in a lot of movies, a lot of the time when you cut a scene and you've got to continue the scene, but maybe it's the next day, maybe a different schedule, whatever the case should be. Did you guys have any challenges in terms of like, to give an example, there's a scene where Ethan and Zoe, for example, right, they go into the water, they go decide to have a swim, and then after that swim, they come back out, and then they, go in a hut, they have to go get a tent, for example. So was there any moments where you thought, right, okay, so Zoe's hair like this is certain like pattern like down here. Okay, the next day if you had to follow up to make sure her hair was the exact same for that follow-on scene, did anything like that come up at all?
Yeah, we had
Like-
loads of that. See Zoe.
Loads of it.
Megan, she's laughing because I'll let you tell the story, Megan. We're going to release it one day as a blooper.
But basically, there's the scene that where I went out with the bag. It was just really slippy, and I absolutely just stacked it. And I've not seen it since, but that was before we went into the water.
Right.
So,
Right.
And then obviously now I've got a bruise and an open wound on my leg, on my thigh, and then I have to go into water that is just sea, like salt. So it was stinging
Right.
the whole time. Adding on to how freezing that water was, but it's all part of the charm.
That's really, really cool.
That's it. I was going to say
Okay,
that's a
good.
good example actually, because that scene there shot the other way around. So
Yeah.
we
It
go
wasn't
into the
originally supposed to be like that, but the
No,
tide
exactly,
was
yeah.
in.
It was a bit
Yeah,
dangerous,
exactly.
wasn't it? And we asked the people, and they were like, "Nah, just wait." And we're like, "Okay."
yeah, you break your ankles.
Yeah.
And then Megan ended up breaking her ankle anyway on the
Yeah.
decking, so it really mattered.
No way.
All for the movie.
Yeah, I've
yeah,
always been curious about that.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I think it's again like that's all in preparation. Like in pre-production, you will have a breakdown of what's happening in what scene, what their hair's going to look like, what kind of makeup is going to be where. So like there's always something to reference. So it's like, okay, cool, this is like day so and so, scene so and so, this is the hairstyle that they have, or this is the costume that he'll be wearing. So if we've done our job right, then hopefully you don't really notice it. Jade was on
I
continuity.
was about to
wasn't
say,
she?
yeah, Jade was putting like sand in my hair because she was like, obviously you've just come out of the water, so you're gonna have sand in there, like sand on our
Right.
face. Like even though you might not see it, it was still like there, and just like little moments like that, like having dirt under our fingernails or greasy hair because I wouldn't have showered that whole time. So when I was
Right.
able to find like shower my hair, that was so nice. But I remember one time I did have fresh hair, and then she was like, "Babe, you're gonna have greasy hair," and I was like, "No." I just have nice clean hair now. But like just little things like that, and yeah, we probably were stinky a few days, but part of the charm.
Yeah, and touching on that as well, Megan, it was like that was a big part of the vision. It's like, Ethan picks Zoe up and they go off together on this road trip. But like so often these, characters in film will go on a road trip, but they always look clean and glossy still.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Right.
where are they washing? Like, what are they doing? Like, we can see there's nowhere to have a wash.
She
So it's
literally had
really
the whole
important.
like the same costume most of the film. So
Yeah, exactly. So it was easier on that because again, it was coming back to being very organic and going back kind of documentary feel at times with the Devon stuff as well. It was really just a case we were kind of helped out by the vision because they are meant to look dirty and greasy and unclean. And luckily we just had to keep them that way. But yeah, for the two of them, it was pretty rough going for a few days.
That's really, really cool to hear. Because that's what I was wondering when I was watching the movie, right? Because when you guys, as you got out of the water and you're out and like you're next to that place to get the tent when you run off in that scene, I was like, wow! I was like, they really just look at it as if they've come out of the water. I wonder if that's shot on the same day or it's on the following day, and they've really, paid close attention to how the hair was of the character as they come out of the water, and as you said, like the fingernails, for example. So just all props to you guys and who was in those departments, and Jade as well, who is able to keep that look going throughout the movie and then following on those special scenes as well. Yeah, I really, really like that. That's a really cool deal.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. I love hearing about all the behind the scenes and those little things. And I wanted to jump back to Megan again, because one of my favorite things to hear about any actor is that doubt they tend to have a lot of times. There's just, you're going to be on camera. I'm sure there's doubt across the entire creative team. Was there a day or a specific scene or a part of the script that you were like, I don't know if I can do this, but you ended up doing it and you watched the take and you're like kind of surprised that you pulled it off?
Some of the singing, to be fair, because it's very daunting just to sing live, and then doing it multiple times as well. But again, I think because it was with Matt, it was less daunting on me. I know probably Matt would say different because he had a lot by himself, bless him. But like, because I'm singing with somebody else, it was like a little bit less pressure. But it was the first film I ever did, so I think I was more excited than I was nervous, because I was like, this is my first proper job coming out of university during COVID, and now I'm able to actually do what I love. And even like when I joined, the guys have already been there filming for like a week, so I joined a bit later. But it was like I was always there, which was so nice. Like, it honestly just felt like a family. I couldn't have asked for a better experience first film. And I'm not just saying that because they're right there. I'm saying it.
That's awesome. And I can only imagine that the singing would be daunting, especially for a first time film. And like, there's probably enough people around for it to feel a little bit awkward, but also like, I can see how it could feel intimate enough with the people, especially with Matt taking on, the kind of center focus there to kind of like alleviate a little bit of that pressure. Oscar, I love hearing a good story about the nightmare day of shooting. Do you have one that comes to mind when you think about like filming this movie? Just something that you're like, I can't believe we got through that day.
Yeah, I mean, there's one and we all think the same thing, but I think it comes to a really good lesson as well, like for myself and I think for all of us. It was the Glitterball scene where it's at night just after they've gone driving off, and it's when they do the one shot of them singing that song in the bus stop, which is called Glitterball.
That was tough.
And well, to start with, the day before there was yellow weather warnings going out, and originally we were going to do it on this cliff edge, right by the ocean, really picturesque spot, and we had planned it, we had blocked it, we had rehearsed it on test shoot. And then obviously the yellow warning could not go there. So it was kind of like a quick scramble of like, oh, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go? And then I found that bus stop called Fairy Cross. And I thought, actually, that might work even better. But it's one of those things where like films made in the prep. And even though we had all banded together very quickly, we maybe weren't, it was quite early on still. It was early in our second block. And we maybe weren't quite ready with the amount of logistical changes to throw at us, along with the weather. And, it was hailing down these huge hailstones, and we had like 4 people of the crew holding tarpaulin over the car so it didn't bang so loud. And, so we were fighting with noise, the cold, the wet. By this point, it was going on like 2, 3 a.m. So we were all pretty fed up. And then we had to do this whole musical number in the rain, which is one shot. So the pressure was pretty high. People were starting getting a little bit fed up, and doubt was starting to creep in. The problem is with that scene is it started well. It started really well. But I think we were all so tired by the time we got to about take 3 or 4 that we kind of lost what we were looking for. Or especially for me, I was like, I actually don't know what direction to direct this in anymore. Like, I felt like we were really close. And now I feel like it's never going to work. And I think it's something we all got in our own heads a lot about. Myself, Megan and Matt, we'd put so much pressure on the scene. From the performance side, Joshy as well from the shot, and now being limited to this tiny bus stop that literally only Joshy.
Well, literally went from like a field blocking like all this space, and then it just got squished into this tiny little tiny little bus stop made of bricks. Yeah, it was horrid.
It was really tough, but and we weren't happy, and we all left the day thinking we hadn't got it, and the evening was a failure, and we felt incredibly disheartened, and it was rubbish. And, the next day I was like, actually, do you know what? In hindsight, I think we really let the elements and the tiredness get to us, and the scene actually isn't probably that bad. And it was kind of like, we've got to get through the rest. So we just have to trust the process. We have to trust it's there and move on. We have to just let it go. But then we got to the edit and we had like 3 solid options, like take 2, take 9, 1 in the middle. And I was like, oh, for Christ's sake, do you know what I mean? Like we spent so many months.
Choose like the second one, like we did like 15 takes, and you're like,
think it was 9.
It was
Who-
9. I nearly
What was
picked
it? It
7.
felt like more on the day.
Yeah, to be fair, it did.
I think it was the amount of stress between, but like I think that's the lesson to take from it. It was like sometimes there's other reasons why you think you haven't got it. It's nothing to do with the shot or the performance. Like we all thought it was, it was us, but it was always there. Everyone was doing the job because the preps did still translate, but it just made it a lot harder due to what we were dealing with. And we were all far too focused on that and ignoring what was working. And it's very easy to ignore what's working at 4:30 in the morning when you're getting hailed on by gobstoppers.
I think it's also like such a natural artist thing to do, isn't it? Like we're always just chasing perfection when it doesn't exist. But we still always strive to get there. And I think we've had this very specific idea, and all of us were chasing it, but it didn't exist. So it's just we weren't realizing what was in front of us at the time.
Yeah, maybe looking back as well, we were all chasing something like completely different because we were somewhere new.
Yeah.
So, what we missed in hindsight, and especially when we got to the edit, was that Megan and Matt were doing it. It felt real. It felt organic. It was right. But we're like, oh, the song wasn't right. You missed the line.
But it was all part of it.
Yeah. And it was just such a great experience looking back, because now it's like you can't hold so much weight on one scene, especially when you're dealing with that. And like sometimes you've just got to trust the process. Like it was there for a long time. I mean, we did go with take 9, so it proves we needed all the takes in a way. But we did find it, and I think and if it wasn't so late, we also would have then sat there like on the other days and watched them back. But we also didn't do that. It was kind of like, we're really upset, we're really disheartened, we're slamming the door and we're going home.
It was quite
like
to have the improv bit as well, because Oscar's obviously, my character just wants to go home now. I think she's just come to realization of what the heck am I actually doing right now. And so that obviously when Matt's character comes out, it's the get back in that car right now. Like, why are you about to play your guitar? Like, this is in a realistic world, you'd be like, we're not singing.
Yeah.
This is like, I'm tired and I just left my job that I probably got fired from. But obviously, and then in the moment, she's like, fine, I'll sing with you.
I'll tell you what did save the scene though. There's in that take 9, it was the first time that our focus puller, Dan Fox, he racks focus to Megan as she stood like in the window frame, so we can see her reaction as Matt's coming up. And that's the first time he did it. And we should have known as soon as it happened, oh, that was it. But then, like Joshy said, we were chasing perfection, and then we all thought like he couldn't, rack focus far enough, and it was soft. But actually, in hindsight, it's not. And we were like, oh, let's go again. We can get it better. We just need more distance. And it's like, it's that sort of thing. It's like, you're ambitious, you are. And this whole shoot was very ambitious. And we're very lucky with how much we managed to pull off and how often we were able to go the extra mile and take big risks. And we are very much in that headspace of like, no, we can do it all because we've done it all to this point, but it was there. I'm really happy. I love the scene. It's a massive fan favorite. Everyone always loves it. It's always commented on. So we just need to shut the hell up about it and enjoy it.
I think that just really speaks to the power of kind of like the creative juices that flow under pressure, right? Because it's one of those things where to hear you say that, when I think of the movie, it's been a few weeks now since I've seen the film, or maybe over a month at this point. When I saw it, that's the scene that keeps coming back into my head, because there's like a great sense of camaraderie in that scene. And it's funny that you guys kind of had like a bigger space, but I actually thought that more contained space kind of added to the sequence a lot more. So I think it all worked out for the best. And I asked Megan about doubts. I asked Oscar about the nightmare date. Joshy, you work with technology, so the technical difficulties are bound to happen. Do you have anything that comes to mind when making this film where you have to kind of come to Oscar on the side and be like, we have a problem?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, there's the typical stuff,
That same night we were running out of V-Lock batteries, weren't we? And that was adding to the pressure, because we were literally a couple of takes away from having no lights at all.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're on the last one. We were like swapping them, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like it's so difficult that like you can have like those the like nightmare situations where something's lost or something's broken or whatever. But I don't. To be honest, like there was nothing that like stuck out that was like heart wrenching.
You're back in.
Yeah, that my backache. Yeah, the camera was, you know, I'm not usually like a director of photography, and we were like, it was more something that I just self-taught myself for like so I could do it myself basically. So I was like, yeah, cool, Conan. Yeah, we can get this big camera. We can get all this. We can get this stupidly long lens, and it worked perfect for the film. Completely forgetting that, like, I'm not the biggest guy, and I'm there going to be there for like 3 minute plus takes holding this camera, just like So we had this like easy rig that comes over from my back, and it just put all the strain on my back. So there was like just moments in the day where I had to just sit down in the corner and be like, just give me 5 minutes and just give me a moment. So that's one of them. And then yeah, I don't know. It just felt like very. Yeah, I think you go through making a certain amount of films, and it's like it's all problem solving. So you can't really expect it to be perfect. Like things are going to happen. So nothing like drastic, I think, happened that I can comment on.
That's awesome, though. That's awesome. It's interesting to hear about the back issue. Yeah, I can only imagine that would be exhausting after a certain amount of time. Because
let's add to that though. Like originally, when we went and got the camera, Josh was like, "Yeah, I can put this on my shoulder, whole shoot, no problem." And he was very confident, like to not do it with the easy rig. And it's like, "No, I'll be fine." Yeah. He was feeling pretty brave, but I was like, "No, I think we should get it."
Yeah,
and so that saved us for sure.
Yeah.
I love the guts and commitment. Like you can't knock that.
Right. I think it's just when you get that one moment, right? When you're in that moment, you're like, got this, that's a piece of cake. But then, it takes yourself, I want to ask a quick question to Megan on the follow-up on the back of what Anthony was mentioned about, like, doubts on the day. More specifically, the kind of question I've got for you, Megan, is when it came to that scene when you and Matt are performing live, and as you said, look, you're in front of people, you've got, like, probably strangers walking by, and at the end of the day, it takes a lot of confidence to do that. Not even just from like an acting standpoint, but like when me, and I could probably speak for Anthony when, on our channels when we've done vlogs, right? We're out in public, we've got, random phone like this being like, hey, everyone, what's going on? Kind of thing like that. That takes a lot of courage to build up. And I've got an example for me that I kind of go back to, and I'm like, right, I remember that moment. I remember this person doing this, and that gives me the confidence going forward to basically be a tit in public and it's kind of vlog the experience. So when it came to that moment and that scene specifically for you, did you kind of harness back to a past experience of maybe seeing someone have that confidence in person and just doing something that they love doing, and you channel that into Zoe? Or was it just your mindset being like, right, I'm playing a character here, I'm playing Zoe, this is something that she would do?
Yeah, it's literally like I'm not me. So, and you can't be conscious, because if you are, then you're not performing to your best ability. And I'm also not helping like Oscar or Joshi or anyone else that's watching me. Because if I'm shy to sing, that's not Zoe. So then then obviously I'll probably have like Oscar going like, Megan, can you like perform a bit more? Do you know what I mean? Which I like. Obviously, the feedback and the direction, that's what I love. But I don't want it to be like, you're not giving me what I want. It's like, you're giving me what I want, but let's try this, this, and this. Because at the end of the day, as an actor, you can't really be self-conscious. Because I'm not playing me. Like, if it was me, I would not be able to like be singing and busking out in the streets. You would never see that. But with Zoe, she's got so much confidence. And again, I think she has the confidence because she's with Ethan and she has that history with him where they're just having fun and they're just trying to get a bit of money so they can like clean themselves. There's motivation there for her as well of being like, if I do this, then we can go to the arcades and have some fun, but we can also wash our dirty bodies.
Right. Well, it's cool to hear about your experience of that as well, and you just got the mindset of the character, and that's what they would do, and kind of get over like any personal kind of doubts you would have on that day. I want to kind of move on to the next question I've got, and it's more so about the casting. So we're going to hear, Megan, from yourself, like how you got casted, how Oscar came across maybe your profile and the interview kind of stuff. But I do want to say this. I said this in my review, Oscar, but I just want to say it. This is a slight spoiler here. When Henry Fisk showed up, man, and he walked past on that scene. I flipped. I had the biggest smile on my face. I was like the Oscar Wenman-Hyde universe exists. Here we go. You know, we've seen him in Cycles. We've now seen him in Melodrive. So, firstly, just kudos to Oscar on that cameo role. That really got a big smile from me. But yeah, Megan, we'll talk about how you got casted first, and and Oscar.
Can I just
for both you guys?
Can I just add to that?
Joshie, yeah, go. Yeah, go.
On that scene where Henry Fisk was in there, Oscar also had a cameo, but we cut it from
really?
the final. Yeah,
I looked like trash. I honestly looked like trash. I didn't realize how tired and run down I was until I saw that shot back in the edit, and I was like, Joshie, that's got to go. I looked gaunt. I actually looked gaunt. I did not look well, and it was gone. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because this is the thing. Sometimes when me and Anthony watch a lot of movies, review them on the channel, you'll see a director make a cameo in the background, or maybe they might play a little small part in the role, have a speaking line or two. So yeah, definitely. I would love to have seen Oscar's cameo there, because when you mentioned that, Josh, I was like, was she there?
It wasn't something planned. It was just we were having a really nice. It was probably the best day of the shoot, to be fair, and we were having a really nice day. And everything was vibing. I was really happy with what was happening. So I was just basically leaving them to it and messing around and having fun. And then I thought, oh, here we go. Everyone's doing cameos. And I just walked in and surprised everybody on the monitor. So it wasn't a plan. It was just spare of the moment impulse. It's my moment type vibe. But yeah.
It was in the edit for a while.
It was, yeah. He wanted it in there, but honestly, you would be scared of how I looked. It was not right.
Oh, I really wish we saw that. I really do. Because I said the Henry Fisk one, I would say had the biggest smile on my face. Especially again seeing your debut feature Oscar with Cycles, and we spoke to Henry. Last time we were all together, as we said, we spoke with Henry Fisk and Henry Wilson about Cycles as well. So yeah, I'll move on to kind of Megan and Oscar. Maybe a question for you guys. So Megan, so with Melodrive, how did this project come across your desk? How did the interview process go, and was it something you were immediately attracted to, or did you actually kind of have to sit and think about it for a little bit?
I actually remember it was at work I got through the script for the audition, and Oscar actually sent the whole script, which never really happens. Obviously the scene that he wanted me to do, and then just so I knew the character a bit more, which was nice to see, and I was like, oh, this sounds fun, especially with the singing part as well, because I did train in musical theatre, but I just wanted to do acting, and I was like, okay, I can do a little song for him if he wants a song. I remember doing it. It was 3 years ago now or something. Yeah. Didn't hear back for over a month. And as an actor, you go, okay, next. You don't hear anything back, then you just assume that you've got it. But then I obviously got the recall, which was face to face in October. I remember it being in October, and that was just really nice. Just to obviously do it face to face is very rare. As myself anyway, to be in the room, let alone with the director as well. And it was just so comfortable. And I've told these guys this story. When I did it with 3 of the guys, one of them being Matt. And when we were waiting for the last person, I had a food account on Instagram, and we're just talking about my cheesecake. And Jade was like, oh, you'll have to bring the cheesecake on set. And I was like, oh, will I? I wasn't the only one going up for Zoe as well. There were some other girls too. But I was like, are you telling me that I got the role because you're bringing my cheesecake? And then I got the one and I bought the cheesecake, and everyone tried my cheesecake.
It was great.
Thank you.
Fair, though, it was a long time, the casting process, but basically from the second she sent me the tape, it was her. And you always just know, you're looking for some, I manually casted this film. I went through basically every account on Spotlight in the right age range. I didn't put a listing out. I wanted to do it manually and find exactly what I was looking for, not waste my time and actors' time, which is the way I always do it. But yeah, as soon as I got that tape back from Megan, it was always her. She just needed to come and prove it could be. Because, you have a vision. It's oh, the tape's really good. But then you need to see them with someone, and it was just a case of finding the right fit, really. But yeah, Megan was brilliant because she kind of fit with everyone, and it gave us a bit of a hard choice on the day. And not that it came down to Ethan being harder to choose, because it wasn't. It was just a case of finding the right, strengths in the two of them together. So yeah, we didn't manage to keep our mouth shut about our excitement to have her. Well, I'm kind of glad that came across, and I think it must have been pretty obvious when we got you to audition with every single Ethan variation anyway. So
It's just nice though, because obviously it's rare that you get to hear from the director, especially with, like, when Oscar says that. It's really nice to know that from my self-tape that he had the trust in me, and I was so grateful that he trusted me to have this role. But yeah, it was just so, like, even thinking back to that was just so long ago now. I think it'll be 4 years this year since I had, like, the recall.
Wow.
Oh yeah, 2021 we did it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is crazy. No, it's crazy.
By the way, talking about, best days on set, Anthony mentioned before, for me, if cheesecake was on the set, I'd be like, that was the best day for me,
Yeah.
And it was vegan, so
I mean, I'm easygoing, to be honest. Before we dive into the next question, I just want to quickly throw over to some comments we've been getting while we're live. So if anyone's watching live, you've got a question for Oscar, Joshua, or Megan, feel free to throw it down. We've got Mythical Legends Podcast and Expedition saying, hey guys, so hello.
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 Close friend Patrick says hello to Mike and guests, and he also has a question. He says, how many takes can an actor do in a musical before the director has to move on and come back to it? Did you guys have that challenge at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, everything was based around when do we have the live sounds that we're happy with. So really, we just kept rolling until I was happy with the performance of the musical number itself, so the performance of the singing, the guitar. Once we had that, we stopped him singing live, basically, and we went to the backing track and just shot all the footage around it. So anything we didn't already have, we would just finish the scene. So speaking of, like, moving on, coming back to it, because we did it like that, there was never really a need to. It was like one job at a time. First, we need to make sure that we've got the live sound and the live footage to gel together. Great, we've got that. Then let's tick off all of the other shots after. And it never took very long because we had recorded the whole album. We had rehearsed for, I don't know, like 5-6 months. So it was all there. It was really just making sure Matt and Megan were properly warmed up. Everything was like vocal cords feeling loose. It was coming across very natural, battling with the elements as well, keeping the voices warm. And, and also it was April, so it was still cold. It was warm enough, but it was still cold. So, like, making sure Matt's fingers were loose enough as well on the guitar.
Yeah.
So it's basically things like that, So there wasn't a point to move on and come back because we approached it in that very specific way.
I was going to say, Anthony's just been over to the UK. He's experienced how cold it is here.
Yeah, I was not used to that. I'm from Florida, so it's super hot here almost all the time. And, I was freezing being out there.
And it was so windy as well.
Yeah.
So, like, every time it was like cut, we'd have, like, Brad putting on our coats, and, like, I was like this. I think there's a literal picture of me like this whilst Oscar's giving Matty, like, some direction, and I'm just, like, in the corner, like, so cold. Like.
Yeah, I can imagine. And in April as well, it's usually pretty cold then in the UK too. Yeah, I can get that. And then I also want to kind of touch a little bit on the next part of the casting Oscar as well, and kind of you guys as well. Having, for example, like the likes of Mark Arnold on set from Teen Wolf, one of my favorite movies, and then having Michelle Collins. So, what was it like getting them on set? How did you get on them on set? And did you guys also find having moments of, like, fandom and geeking out? These people were like on set with you,
Yeah, so, like, it was pretty straightforward, really. I mean, Mark Arnold knew the producer Monica because they went to church together or something like that, I think. So basically, we got the script over to him. He really liked the script. He was a big music fan and said he knew he'd never get a role where he gets to do this again and play drums and all of that. So he was really keen for that reason. Then we had a couple of chats, and it just fell into place, really. Went for coffee a few times. He was really into it. He met Matt. They gelled really fast. And he was just excited to be a part of something musical and to play drums. So we leaned on that, really, just to lock it in. And then in terms of Michelle, that was a case of reaching out to, her agent and, proper traditional casting process to get her in. But she had semi-recently gone through empty nest syndrome, where her kids have left home, and she's rethinking her life and, her dynamic. And when she read the script, and that's what Nora's going through quietly in the background, that really appealed to her. So she came on basically on the script and how it resonated with her own personal life at the time. But sorry, thinking of your second part of that question, it didn't really sink in until this was right at the end that we had Mark and Michelle with us. And I was sat in the conservatory and they were just sat there next to me and we were just like reading lines, giving notes. And that was pretty cool to be sat there, like just the three of us on this really sunny but not warm, especially to you, Anthony, morning. And it was really amazing just to be sat there and to be telling them both, yes, that's really good, but even better to be like, oh, can we try it like this? And having the confidence to do that. Like, because that was one thing I was nervous about. And I think I would have been more nervous if it was at the start of the shoot, just because they're established and they've done a lot more than I have. You know what I mean? And I've got to prove myself. I've got to prove that I'm worth listening to, and I didn't know if they would or not. But by that point in the shoot, I was always very confident in the vision. I knew exactly what we were doing and it was always going to go that way. But by that point, there wasn't really any nerves. It was more just gratitude to be in that position and to be doing that with, like established talents like them, and to have the confidence come to fruition in the vision and what I was trying to do. And they were super receptive and really passionate about it and wanted to make it the best they could. So I was very grateful for that.
That's a really interesting casting process, how you got them like one kind of traditional route and one not so much traditional route. You just managed to get the script over by Monica, as you said. And
again, though, like it's traditional and non, but at the same time, it still came down to the script. You know what I mean? There was nothing any of us could have said. I was lucky just the characters aligned. Mark wanted to play like a semi-musician and Michelle had experienced empty nest syndrome. So like it worked and it aligned, and that's why we're in this position. And I'm very grateful for that.
Kind of meant to be as such, like in like the right place, right time, right maybe moments in their own personal lives as well that have a project come by them that relates to them to some extent. And I think I remember, Oscar, and correct me if I'm wrong, when we had a chat where we spoke more about kind of just your full resume as such, you mentioned about Mark Arnold. You had to learn drums on the day. Is that right?
Yeah, so, you've seen the film. He doesn't play a lot of drums, but he had to play just enough to just make it work visually. I was going to say convince, but I won't say that. We'll let the audience say that.
Sell the scene.
He did a great job. We, when everyone was setting up for those scenes in the recording studio, I was basically teaching him, right, this is the kick, this is the snare, this is when to play them. And, we simplified in the recordings. The drums were recorded and written by a guy called Connor Ross Harrington. And he came up with all the drum parts. And when we're in the studio, I was like, right, Mark Arnold's not a drummer. But also the drums can't be like piss poor easy because then they sound rubbish. So like it was kind of like trying to find that balance. So in the recording, they're simple, but they're complex enough to be interesting. But then if Mark only plays the kick and the snare, on the beat, then that's all he needs to do to make it match. So and then again in the edit, if he was ever like late on any of the hits, we would just get rid of it and move to the next one.
Yeah.
So he did an amazing job, and I was really grateful because that was a night that went quite late, and grateful to the fact that not only was he acting, but he had to learn that new skill. And it's hard to learn a new skill, especially an instrument at any age, but especially as you get older, so the fact that he just turned up and he was bang up for it was awesome, and I'm really proud of him. I thought he did a great job.
Right. Yeah, as I say, I definitely think he sold the scene as well. Like, you couldn't tell, like, oh, he's a brand new beginner or he's only just having his first lesson today, like that didn't come across like that at all in the movie. So,
and that's
yeah,
why there's that
to you and Mark.
line as well, Mike, in the script where the recording engineer, Alex, he says that, he's a bit corny to look at and he needs to practice to a click. So, like, if I throw a line in that he's meant to be a bit shit, then, like, it's all right, innit? I couldn't have him praise him at the end because that would be very weird. But, it's kind of like, oh, well done, mate. Great job. See you later. And then it was all right.
That's great.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear about, honestly, because I also have a history with music too. So it was nice to see all those musical elements in the film, which is why I started off initially with, when we were first talking about it, with the praise of like the syncing the music to the visual, because I know that takes many takes. It's using pre-recorded music and music recorded on the day and the stuff you're filming, but the stuff that has to sync. If not, it just doesn't work. And so to see all the stuff that went into that, or hear all the stuff that went into that, is really awesome. Now, speaking about the visuals, though, I've been meaning to ask Joshy that, outside of, the more traditional scenes where you have the camera on your back, there's quite a bit of scenes where you have to do stuff while the car is driving, whether the camera's inside the car or there's shots of cars driving, in the locations around the car. And then you also have the scene where, you have to take the camera into the water. What kind of precautions did you have to take for a lot of the like mobile scenes, or like going into the water and stuff like that with the camera?
We just kind of just went with the idea of fuck it, just get it done.
Add to that, though, the thing is, we didn't really know if we had it. It was only when we got to the edit we were like, oh great.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite bits is that montage where he drives down to Devon, because that's my trip to go back home, but it's the way that it feels kind of like really nostalgic for anyone at the same time. And we were just it was our travel day, and we were just shooting the road signs and the road as we went. We were experimenting, rigging it up, but we didn't know, because we couldn't review any of it and we had no monitor. It's just like, I trust you, Joshy, and let's just have some fun and we'll make it work.
I think that's what I mean by like with what I said earlier about like there's so many different styles of like editing and filmmaking. Like we had like the A cam, which was the FX9 with this like Fujinon, like I think it was like 35 to 70 mil lens. Might be wrong.
Bigger, I think, was it?
Maybe could have been.
It
Could have been 120. Yeah, it could have been 120. But the camera's like massive from like butt to the nose of the lens. That wouldn't fit in the car when there's a tiny little bug car, so it's got no chance. little go-kart. So we ended up borrowing Dan Fox's the camera assistant's camera, which was a FX3, which is like basically the smaller version. And we use that for all like handheld stuff, and we'd attach that to like rigs on the side of the car to like shoot through the side window, or there was the kit van that we'd attach it to the front of the kit van, the back of the kit van, sorry, to like shoot the car from the front on the main roads.
And none of that we had permits to do either. We were just, again, fuck it. It was like, we could have been stopped, but really, what harm are we doing?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Where the fuck it comes in. And then the same with the ocean stuff. Like, it's just that, I mean, Megan's probably got some comments to make on the ocean stuff as well. But it's just like case of just like, as soon as you get your feet in, it's just like, I'll just go for it. Here we go. Let's run in. I was better off, though. I was told I had to wear a wetsuit. So I was better off than those guys. They were just in their underwear. But I was
going to say, Oscar just decided to join us because he was like, I'm the director. And I was like, you could have worn the swimsuit. It was like, no. I was like, why are you doing it to yourself?
Yeah, it's only fair. But like that ocean stuff, like we couldn't see, we had like this underwater pouch basically. So we couldn't actually see what we were shooting, and we couldn't change the focus distance either. So we just set it all up. Like, cool, we know we've got like this much space and it's in focus. And then we didn't look at it until we got back to like base in the afternoon after we had shot that and the camping store, like surf shop scene where she steals a tent. Yeah. And then we got back and watched it and we're like, oh, phew, we've got it. It's fine. And we were really happy.
Yeah, that was a big panic and worry. It was literally like we just had to kind of rough measure in front of the camera. Like, okay, they've got about this much focal length, and I just had to kind of like aim for them to be that kind of distance in front of the camera. Just go, I'm guessing this looks okay. I have no idea what was crashing over us. We're just like, we'll go for it. Here we go.
Well, and then I nearly like drowned. Well, didn't drown. We were trying to do one shot, and then Matt just didn't move me. So like this wave just went into my lungs. I was like, guys, you could have told me there was a wave coming. Jesus Christ. Yeah, honestly, after it was just too funny. I think because it was still kind of early on, so I had like a bite of an apple, and as soon as I came out, because it was so cold, I was like, I don't feel good. I was like, I don't want to be the diva, but like I'm gonna
It was ridiculous. ridiculously cold too, to be
It
fair.
really was. Like, I think I knew it was going to be cold, but I didn't realize it was going to be that cold.
Yeah, like we couldn't. I think because Brad was like managing like health and safety, was the assistant director, and he was like, you cannot be in the water more than, I think it was like 2 minutes or something. So he was literally at the beach with his like feet just in it, like then getting ready to call us back in. So we literally had like 2 minutes as well to shoot that whole thing. So it was literally just run and gun, put it in the case, go, yeah, that's the focal distance.
But the water was so
Like,
far out. I remember that. Because like we
Yeah.
obviously had to like ship off at one point, but the water was so far out, so we're like still running, and we're like, oh my god, it's not getting deep, but it's so cold. So like we're still, I'm like, why is this water not going up? Like, when are we gonna actually start doing this? It was like, wouldn't recommend. Don't do that.
I was gonna say there's Brad dipping his toes in with his stop clock over here. Right, guys, you have 1 minute and a half left. Come on, hurry up.
Exactly that.
I mean,
That's
hey,
funny.
it paid off for sure. I really enjoy the way that scene looks. And you mentioned you have like the water crashing over you, but honestly, I like that. Like, I thought it only added to the look of the whole thing. You know, it feels like the camera is a character in that moment as well. So I figured there must have been a funny story behind that.
Yeah, Jackie, why did we cut that bit out? Why did we cut out the bit where I'm like drowning?
Added
You might
drama.
release it.
Yeah. It sounds like we definitely need the bloopers for this movie for
Yeah.
sure, 100%. But Megan, you mentioned this was your first movie, and you mentioned you started with musical theater and acting in a movie. You got to bring a different level of nuance for it to be believable. There's going to be a lot of close-ups, whereas on the stage or anything like that, you can do a little bit more with your body to kind of like get across emotions. What kind of like things that you have to like learn and unlearn, kind of coming to a more like facial acting heavy medium?
I kind of still get it now. Sometimes I like overact. Like, that's what actors think with musical theatres. Like, there's a thing that they say, like, musical theatres actors can't act, which obviously is not right. Like, we can all act. But also with Oscar directing, that helps me as well, of like, what do you kind of want? How do you want Zoe to be? Because she could be like over the top with everything and just little things like that. I just think as soon as like you know the script and you know the character, it's just you but somebody else. Like, I'm not gonna be like saying the line like that. It's gonna have those few moments of when she first has that conversation with Ethan, of she genuinely wants to know how he's been. Like, she's heard things about him, but she's not seen him for so long. She probably like she did love him at one point, and even if that was a romantic way or just of a friendship way. And then when she's like finally getting to know him and being like, oh my god, I also heard that you got married. Like, that's crazy, because she probably always thought that they would be getting married or they would have that sort of future. And then when he's like, we spoke about this, me and Matt, it was like he always just ignored every serious conversation that Zoe wanted, even near the end, of like, will you just let me know, did you ever like love me? And he's like, did you ever love me? And it's like, oh, I asked you the question first, like, but just those little things of like, once you know how that interaction is and how she reacts to what he says and little things like that, like, she knows he's married, but she doesn't really care in that moment. She just wants to feel like she did when she was 16 with him. And like, obviously near the end when she's crying, she's like, I think we both did this to each other. I think it was a way to escape. And I'm happy we did it, but this is the end now. So once you know that and you know where she's going throughout and the flow of it, it's just easier. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just so easy to act it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. It's like that because like, yeah, you do kind of hear that thing sometimes about people who are playing stuff on stage, that because they have to act a different way that they can't act, but it's just a completely different style of acting,
so different, and every character is different as well. Like, I've auditioned for roles, or I've done stuff after Melodrive where there's no indication that she's like Zoe. I have said like Zoe's such a relatable character to me because I do work as barista my other job because I'm an actor and need to make money. But then I've done like a few short films that are completely different, or I have auditioned for other things where you just have to be what they're asking you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's great. I love to hear kind of how your acting style has to shift a little bit. And we've talked for a little bit over an hour now, and we've talked specifically about the technical aspects. We haven't discussed too much of the story. So, Oscar, I'm curious from your perspective. You said you were writing this back when you were, still working on cycles, and like you've been kind of having this in your back pocket. The main character, Ethan, is a complex one. He's not a character that's immediately likable. He's not a character that's immediately making the right choices. And I would say for majority of the film is making the wrong choices. And that's part of the story. What attracted you to this kind of story? Where did you kind of like pull the inspiration from this? Is it kind of like a life personal kind of thing, or just more something that you've always kind of had on your mind? Where did it come from?
Yeah, great question. I mean, for starters, he is intentionally meant to be difficult and unlikable, and he's meant to frustrate you, because I really believe in like challenging protagonists, protagonists that can do. I don't think there's a lot of leeway sometimes in film, television, you get it in novels and books, but you don't get it in like visual mediums where people can just be bad and that's okay. Do you know what I mean? So I'm really interested in that as like just a general story narrative, so I always explore it. But with Ethan, he makes a lot of bad choices, and you could 100% say he's a bad person. He does some very bad things, but at the same time, he's like 21, so it's like the journey is to take you on a point of like, cool, yeah, you can be angry, totally, like, because he should definitely know better. But at the same time, we've all been, 20, 21, 22, and broken some hearts and fucked a lot of shit up. So, you know what I mean? So, like, Ethan's meant to be that thing that he either instills kind of like a sense of freedom with the viewer. It's like, okay, cool, I can watch this and just let go for a minute because I get it. Or, depending on your life experience, you can be angry because you've been through something similar and you think this is just out of order, he should know better. Or you're on the other end, and you're searching for your own personal forgiveness and all of that. So, Ethan's meant to appeal to many different peoples in many different ways, but he's definitely not meant to be likable, and that was a big part of it. He's just meant to be a very flawed human being going on this very natural journey. And somebody put this really well recently, and I've been searching for this phrase for all of my films. I mean, you guys watch Cycles too, neither of them are likable. They're terrible to each other. And they say some absolutely awful things, but they're real and they're brothers, and there's deep love there, and there's wanting to do the right thing, but genuinely in life, sometimes it's not actually that easy to do, and Ethan's all about like his trauma is a strong word, but like his background and his history with his parents, he's allowing himself to lean on that for his own freedom and forgiveness. He can say, oh, I blame my dad, I blame my mom, I blame this divorce, so I can act this way because that's my reason, and I'm just like my dad, and everyone adds to that by saying it. So the film is it's like a coming of age film, but the way I can put kind of everything I do now, thanks to this person, is that it's not a coming of age film. It's a coming of independence. And what Ethan's doing is he's coming of independence. And we're not giving him a lot of leeway sometimes because he is an adult, but I don't think there's many people that feel like an adult at 21. And sometimes it can take a little, you have to go through things in life. You have to learn lessons in order to grow up. And Ethan, having all of that to lean on, which, people do in life, allowed himself to not grow up at the time he should have, which is now where we find him, and he is left with picking up these pieces but also for the audience, allowed to distract himself along the way so we can actually have some fun. Enter Zoe. Do you know what I mean? So, and he's about like, it is a romantic drama, but there's not one kiss in it. There's not really even a hug. There's no one says I love you back. They try and say it like Megan said a minute ago, but no one does. And the film is really about lost love with yourself, lost love with your family, lost love with your friends, lost love with your romantic partners, and how you don't necessarily earn it back before you're in a place where you're willing to love yourself. So I don't even know if I've gone way beyond your question, but that's
no, that's great. No, I loved hearing all that because it adds so much more context, and in a lot of ways makes the film even better for me in my mind. When I look back on it, because I see those beats in there. And like, I totally agree with the notion that like, I think there's this idea that by the time you're 21 that you should kind of have your shit together, but that's just not reality.
Yeah.
And as somebody who has divorced parents myself, I do think there's that also that element of like, when you're not really raised around a household where you get like love kind of displayed to you, when you go out there trying to start your own life of love, you tend to stumble a lot because you don't really fully know what it looks like in a healthy capacity, you know. So I really appreciated that element, which was something I said it when I reviewed the film, that I really connected to that element. So yeah, I loved hearing that.
Yeah, and for me, like growing up, especially like in my late teens and early 20s, I was that person that blamed bad behavior on like, oh, but I don't know what, I don't have a good example of love or relationship. And I did, in a way, you subconsciously know you're using it. But
Right.
it does take like that growing up and coming of independence to be like, oh, actually, it's not really like that helpful to use it for anyone either, is it? Do you know what I mean? And really
Right.
what you should do is go and talk to these people and get to the bottom of like, why do I still care as an adult? You know, because you get to a point and you don't need to. Do you know what I mean? Like, I definitely felt like that. Like, they're just people of their own stories and own backgrounds and own life. And I'm fine. So why am I allowing myself to be hung up on it? But I think there's that child in all of us, isn't there, that for some reason always wants, you know, their parents together in this normal life. And whatever strange reason we're always searching for that, we are. And Ethan is, but he needs to get to a point where it's like, he is independent now. He has his own life, and it's his choice whether he wants to take it or be stuck in the past.
For sure. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, I love that.
Definitely. And there's a lot of relatable themes, as you guys have been touching on, about, you know, making past mistakes, and then as you're younger, making those mistakes maybe later on in time, realizing, well, actually, yeah, I messed up at this point in life. Or maybe as we see Ethan, you know, right at the beginning of the movie, you know, he's separating from his wife. He decides to go on this road trip with his, he goes into Zoe in his picture, you know, kind of reminiscing back at a certain time to be like, right, this was a great point in my life. Okay, maybe let's try rekindle that. Let's maybe try, you know, bring back that great memory and make that present as such. So a question I've actually got talking about the story element, and a question I guess more so for Megan, but maybe Joshua and Oscar, you guys had a bit more of this in the background. So of course you've got like a main love story of these two characters that knew each other from a younger age. And in kind of your spare time and maybe behind the scenes, or Megan, like yourself and Matt, getting time to, you know, talk behind the scenes and getting to know one another, of course you've got the element in the script that says, right, this is what these two characters are. There's a little bit of brief background of their history of knowing one another. But would you guys make like extra scenarios, or to be like, oh, you know, like, right, I knew him in school, I knew him in like this year, and did we actually go on dates at that time? To kind of further establish like the love story, I guess, between yourselves, so you could then bring that into like certain things.
Yeah, me and Matt and Oscar, we had like a Zoom meeting like way before even filming or anything like that, just to go through how they knew each other, what their past was, but also what like Zoe's been up to since not seeing Ethan, and just her relationship as well with her parents. Does she have any siblings? Did she do well in school? Like, just those little bits that you get to know your character a bit more, and why she is where she is, how her mum got ill, when did she start getting ill, did Ethan know that her mum was ill during the time they were friends, and stuff like that, which was nice to do. Then also hearing what Matt thought of Ethan during that time they were like really close friends. I think we came to the conclusion like they still didn't do anything, but that they knew they liked each other. It was just who was going to say it first. But by the time they realized they did like each other, they were going on completely different paths. They like went to different universities, and they just lost contact. And I think it was just that sort of thing. So when they do finally see each other, I think she's not seen him for a good few years, and that's when she's like, "What? Whoa!" He's like singing again, because she probably like knew that he loved that singing. Obviously, we had like Glitterball, and like that was a song he made for her, and she still remembers it. So there's still like that meaning that she always thinks about him, but I don't think she realized as much as she did until she saw him again and had that interaction.
Yeah, and
Right.
Zoe's meant to add to that. Like, Zoe resembles the what if in everybody's life. It's not that she's necessarily always on your mind, but when things start to go wrong, or you think, oh, is this the right path I'm meant to be on? I'm sure everyone can think of somebody in their life, and it's not even necessarily somebody that you hold any importance over, but Zoe's that, you know, right person, wrong time, and it will always be the wrong time for Ethan and Zoe because it's not meant to be. Because that's not what either of them are to each other. But, you know, it's in those moments of crisis where it's like, oh, it could have been really simple if, like, 4 years ago we just got together and didn't look back. Or if 4 years ago we went to the same uni. But, like, it doesn't solve anything, and still probably the same thing would have happened. You know what I mean? Because that's life, and it has these funny ways of showing things. But, yeah, she resembles the whole what if, so you also don't need loads of background on Zoe. Like, having her mum being sick is enough, because the rest, the audience, and you guys are projecting yourselves. Like, Mike, you said in your review that she made you think of, like, you know, other people in your life or exes and all of that. And like, that's what she's meant to do. You know, she's not meant to have loads of story. She's meant to be this bundle of energy that lifts weight off your shoulders for 30 minutes, gives you a great time, you know, sings some songs and then fades away again. But she remains such like a heavy point in the film and for people afterwards, because she resembles probably the most relatable part of the film for everybody. And whether it's another person you're holding that what if sentiment over, or whether it's yourself, like, oh, what if I did this? Like, he kind of is the core of the whole theme of the film. And that's why so much revolves around her. And, you know, out of all of the supporting characters, Zoe probably drives the story the least, but she hammers it home the most, you know? So, like, that's kind of the balance we were dealing with.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that was like one of my kind of favorite aspects of it. You know, like before meeting my wife, it would be a case sometimes in maybe those moments you'd be like, oh, like, you know, like, what if I did this differently in a past relationship, or like, you know, like, what has an ex been up to in this time, or like, you know, that kind of thought pattern of that. So yeah, I think that was conveyed really, really well. Yeah, I really like that element of it, and I think Megan, you did a great job as Zoe in that part as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I also wanted to ask another question kind of on the story part of it as well. So I guess, Joshie, we're going to start with you first. So when it came to editing the movie, what was your favorite scene?
Oh, favorite scene. Wow. Oh,
Better pick one.
I think I really, yeah. Favorite scene. It's a strange one. I think probably the scene with Matt and Mark Arnold on the beach I really enjoyed.
That's actually come up a lot since it released. A lot of people have said that as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just I think even when shooting it, I could just feel it from just sitting next to them, shooting the two like dirty over the shoulders with them, and it was just like everything else in the film had been like quite like like rushing around crazy, like there's like, almost like hyper stylized in a way, with like the zoom in and all this kind of stuff with the camera, and it was kind of strange just to kind of like sit there for a minute with Ethan and just kind of like be there and like kind of like, I don't know, it was nice. And then going into it with the edit as well, it just reflected that same thing. I don't know if that's the same emotion that other people get away from it. I think it could just be from me like trying to understand the character the same as like everyone else who's like making the film. Because I mean, I've butted heads with Oscar over a few like decisions that Ethan makes, and it's like none of my decision is in my job roles. Mine is to emphasize Oscar's vision. So I can never really go to Oscar and be like, oh, I think the script should change to this. Like, that's not my job. My job is to go, okay, how can I emphasize your point in the script? Like, what's the how does the camera like convey this in like a visual communication to people? Yeah, I don't know. I think that scene, and then probably I really enjoyed Teenage Plans. That was good fun.
Hard to vote against it, isn't it?
Yeah. I think that was lovely because like I think all the elements kind of like was in our favors then. Like the film gods smiled on us that day. It was good fun.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. In that moment with Ethan and Mark Arnold's character, and just that raw, just just pure conversation about where have you been, and yeah, I just felt like it was really like raw emotions in that scene. Yeah, I agree.
It's
And
also very
Oscar,
needed. Like, you need it when you get to that point. You've had all of this thing about hearing about him, but like, we need to talk to him. Do you know what I mean? Like, where are we at? And it's you can feel it's so needed by, again, from Megan, and how much she urges him to, like, oh no, go. You need to go. I'm gonna go and just have 5 minutes. You need to go and speak to him. And I think like that's a lot. You know, Zoe is the fun and games of the film, but when it matters, she knows to step aside. And I think Nat tells us a lot, because as an audience, we want to stay with her, but for her to know that you can't for the next like 10 minutes, also allows the audience to really give their time to that scene.
Yeah, true, and it's really cool for yourself though, Josh. Like, you know, that was your favorite scene, and then also reflecting back in the editing room, you still have that kind of same feeling too.
But like, in the script form, like I just glanced over it. If you know what I mean? It was only when I was like we sat there to film it that I was like, oh crap! Like, I think just to touch on like what Oscar was saying about like being 21 and making all these mistakes, it was like that's the scene where you do kind of in a way. Well, you do just dislike Ethan up until that point, really, and it's like that's the moment where you're just like, it's just because he's a ignorant kid, he's just a young person that's just making stupid decisions, and it just takes like a little bit of like life experience of someone who just went through it and like experienced and made all those dumb decisions to be like, just chill out, you know, like calm down, sit down, you know, listen to the ocean, you know. Take your time. Why are you rushing into these things? Kind of, and I think that's what it does in the film. And that's like the moment where you're just like, yeah, you can then see the lessons that Ethan has to learn.
Yeah, very true. And it's also, I guess, kind of a bit of change of pace for you as well, Joshy. You know, instead of having a camera on your shoulder or on your back at that point, just being able to just put it down and be like, right, these two people are just
on my knee that time.
That's cool. Yeah. and how about yourself, Oscar? Like, for your favorite scene, was there maybe when you were writing this, being like, right, this specific scene, this stands out to me. This, you know, maybe give you a big smile. I'm going to love this on the day. But then actually, once it's all finished, you thought, well, actually, that is my favorite scene instead.
So there's a scene that was cut in a tent. No, I'm joking, not the tent scene. we're not going to talk about the tent scene. It's not we can't even talk about it because it's just not clean, so we can't. But, well, one day we might release it as a joke. But no, my favorite scene, I brought that up now, everyone wants to know about that, which I've just realized. But yeah, my favorite scene, I don't have one. I can't think. I probably have had favorite scenes many times, but since screening it and since people watching it, my favorite scene is the punch, because it you know, it's just great, and it really packs a punch, for, you know, lack of a better term, it really does. And it's so great with an audience because you get such a massive reaction and such a split reaction too, and I absolutely love it for that reason.
I was going to say, with that punch scene, so of course I saw the trailer when you originally saw the trailer, I did like a trailer reaction on the channel, and the punch scene, like even in the trailer, I was like, oh, you know, but then when it came to the movie, I forgot all about that scene coming up. It's all like, I forgot it completely. So when it happened, I was like, come on, you know, finally, he's done it, you know. But no, that I can imagine having like a big reaction for sure.
Yeah. And it's also like, so I like it a lot because it's probably, you know, there's something to get across narratively and a message to say in every single scene in Melodrive, and something different to say in each scene. But for that scene, it's so short and it's so simple, but it's so straight to the point. And the purpose of that scene is to break the ice, get everyone on a level playing field, and start again so we can actually listen to him talk to Freya. If Freya opened the door, there's no way we're listening to that conversation, you know. There would be riots in the cinema, not like cheers, you know, all of that. So I think because of how well it serves its purpose, you have all that fun, he gets the punch, everything settles, everyone goes quiet, and we just soak in that conversation. Without it working and landing as well as it does, we lose the conclusion of the film. So I'm very grateful to it for that reason.
Yeah, it's kind of like a reset / I would say wake-up call.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, like, as I said, like, he's been messing around. Of course, you get, you know, not too big of a spoiler, but in the first 5-10 minutes of the movie, you know, he's caught cheating, and then goes on this road trip with such thing. Of course, he meets Zoe's character. But by the time you get to that punch, you're right. Like, that's kind of like all this craziness is like, right, boom, reset, straight to conversation, you know, and actually like, have that conversation that we should be seeing, right? Because I know, kind of just to very quickly go off topic in this section here, and I'm going to hear from Megan what her favourite scene was, is I know, Oscar, we kind of spoke in the background about that beginning opening scene with Ethan and Freya, about them, and she discovers his cheating. But of course, in the movie, I know you said you had to cut like a 14-minute scene of them having that discussion, maybe how she finds out how he's been cheating as well. Which I still want to see that cut, by the way. I still want to see that scene and see this conversation. Are we going to get like an Oscar Wenman-Hyde like extended cut of Melodrive at some point, Josh B, as well?
Once upon a time you would have, but I like the film as it is now. And I really stand by it, and I really believe in it. I think, you know, when you're making cuts in the editing room, there's the artist in you that's like, no, I want this, I need this is right, this is me. You know, and you guys know me pretty well, and like how I write and direct, that would have felt like me. You would have known that was me, that first scene. But in hindsight, I really like Melodrive now because it doesn't take the piss with your time. It doesn't test your patience. Like, it gets on with it. It gives you everything you need and nothing else. You know, at the start, you can maybe be like, oh, I need more clarity on this. But you get it at the end, you know, when they get back, when they talk and they're back in each other's company. So, yeah, for me, you probably will never see it now because I don't see the reason anymore either. You know, and it's always nice to have more information, but it's not about the act. It's about where he's going.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's fair enough as like an artistic standpoint, and like I guess in an extent you could edit it again, and then you would be like, well, actually, am I fully satisfied with this edit? Should I maybe include an extra scene here or there and stuff? So yeah, I can appreciate it at some point.
The main thing is, to be honest, it cut for multiple reasons, but one of the biggest ones was as soon as Zoe came in the film, she completely screwed it all up. She ripped up the script. The pace was gone that we had set, and we couldn't work it around Zoe enough. And, you know, so that was a big thing. It was like, no, Zoe is the stuff that really works. That's the stuff that sells this film. And we couldn't find the pace because the beginning was so much slower. So, you know, that was a big thing. Like,
but it took like 20 minutes to get in the car, didn't it?
Yeah. And there wasn't a song
there was even
like
a song.
28 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was some cool stuff there and some cool material, and the performances are great, but the film's how it's meant to be. And I'm glad I can say that, you know, as an artist that had to cut things they loved, to now be like, yeah, actually, I don't care anymore. I really like the film. And, you know, I'm a fan. That's really like a nice feeling because you don't always get that. But, you know, it was collaborative to get to that point, and it was hard at the time. But, yeah, it is what it's meant to be, and I'm happy.
Right. And that's the main thing about being happy with your own project and just happy with the final result.
Yeah.
Sure. And Megan, how about you? The question before, what was your favourite scene?
I think it was when we were doing Moonlit Mistress, just like hearing this other band play like the instruments, and it just felt so wholesome. I mean, like, my hair stank after it because of the bonfire. I don't know, it was just that moment, like, I like welled up a little bit because I was like, oh, this is just so nice. I probably from lack of sleep as well. But it was just so lovely to then see like Matt playing his guitar, as like finally doing this song. And I think during that day as well, the weather was just horrible. So we're like, oh, we're just all so tired. And then to just be warm was nice. Yeah, that scene I just always think back to that scene when you said that. So that one I really loved.
To be fair, Joshy, that was your favourite for a long time.
Yeah, it was. I think it's the song that I really enjoy. That song.
Yes.
They
also auditioned with that song.
Yeah, we did. Yes.
Yeah. That shoot was lovely, but like logistically, like with how many people were in that tiny space and how hot it was. Going from like outside blistering cold to then inside and it being like boiling hot, like jackets off, like trying to bring all the cameras through, not knocking anyone over. It was crazy. But like when it got into the edit, it was absolutely lovely, and it all paid off and it all worked.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's really cool to hear about like you guys' fond memories of like certain scenes or particular moments as we'll be discussing this as well. It's been really great to see behind the scenes. And before we kind of wrap up and ask you guys, you know, like what you got going on currently in future projects, Anthony, did you have any other questions you wanted to throw in?
Yeah, no, I just have one last real question for everyone, and I will say, Oscar, I do want to see an extended cut with the tent scene and with your cameo in it. I'll say that you've now
I'll give you those two because they're just so shocking, and that shock factor alone will just take your breath away.
Yeah, I think I need those. But when it comes down to any creative process, right? There's typically some sort of takeaway. So, we can go down the line. Megan, we'll start with you. What was your biggest takeaway on a creative level here? Something that you learned here that you want to take into future projects? You said you've already done projects post Melodrive. Like, what did you learn from this that you kind of want to continue to kind of build upon in future projects?
Uh-oh.
Did she freeze?
Oh no.
Megan looks like it, I think.
It looks. It looks like we got her back. Little technical difficulties.
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, you can go ahead and answer for now, and then we'll come back around.
Yeah. What did I take away creatively? So many things. So many good things, so many bad things, so many in the middle things. But if I can really take away anything, I think it would be to just fully trust the process. Melodrive meant a lot to me, but I definitely got way too close into wanting to achieve it. And I could have taken a couple steps back and just trusted it will happen because it's already happened. We've done all the prep. We've done all the work. So there is nothing to worry about. And I think if anything that, definitely in a couple of bits I've done since, it was just trusting that it's going to be fine. And thinking of that glitter ball scene as the one that really, hit that message home was just it was always fine because the right people were there. And we had done the prep and we all knew what the mission was and, what the goal and the vision of the film was. So if anything, to just enjoy it more and trust it.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear for sure. I think, based on everything you've said, it seems like that would be the biggest takeaway. And it makes me really excited to see what you do next as a writer and a director. And, I know you do photography as well. And the whole shaboodle, in this case, producing, composing. So I'm sure whatever you do next, it'll be nice to see the next time we talk, how you handled some of those challenges for whatever your next project is. Josh, I'll throw it over to you now. Was there anything you learned here? Are you going to rely on easy rigs more often? What did you take from this experience?
I'm just dropping cinematography altogether. No, I'm joking. I don't know. I think that even though if it was a long period of time taken up by Melodrive, if you look at it on the scale of things of a normal indie production, it wasn't really from my side of things. And I think from that, there being such heavy deadlines on the editing and it almost forcing your hand to lean into the vision of the film, to make instinctual decisions. I am one, especially with my own projects, I make the silly decision of I just need more time. I just need to, give myself the extra few months, and then it turns into, tens of months and then a year and then blah, blah. And then you realize that you could have just, lent into what you wanted to do originally, which is just cut down the project and lean into that time frame and trust the deadline and trust your creativity and your instincts. And that was something that I learned through Melodrive was same as what Oscar was saying is there was this other vision of the film which was probably another 30 plus minutes long. But when you are cut down by time and and then you start thinking of it in a more commercial way of people are going to be watching this, you don't want to take the piss. What is it? It's a music drama, so let's get the music out. And then you're putting it more face value, leaning into those creative decisions. I think that's what I want to take forward to my stuff is just kill your babies a little bit, I suppose. Don't be so afraid. Lean into those decisions, and it happens. you don't need to like fight to save something if it's not working, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear from both of you. I saw in the private chat behind the scenes here that Megan said that she was having some Wi-Fi issues there. So don't know what her answer is, but Mike, did you have anything you wanted to kind of say here at the end too?
No, I think it's just been a great, firstly, just want to thank Oscar, Joshy, and Megan for taking the time to talk to us about Melodrive and give us a bit more behind the scenes. And hopefully this will be able to plug the movie a little bit more and more people get more eyes and focus on it. Because I want to see more letterbox reviews on Melodrive. I want to see some IMDb ratings and just raw reviews, because I've been seeing like some news articles and like certain like media outlets about it as well. So it's been really cool. What I will throw as the last question is, and I'll throw over to Joshy first. Basically, at the moment, like, what you got coming up, or what you're working on right now, and what can we expect to see from you going forward?
These few things. Biggest thing right now, like the immediate thing, is the second season of Gloucester Independent Film Festival. Mine Oscar's baby. Yeah, something that we're very passionate about, and Gloucester just needs. And yeah, it's been lovely, kind of like building that community of filmmakers in a place where there just wasn't really that community. So that's really exciting. We got a great lineup of films, and I had like such a great like list of submissions for this season too. So that's exciting. That's happening on in April. So a lot of work to do to get that ready and organize all the films and the screenings and the ceremonies and all that stuff. Yeah, and then just like plugging away, trying to get my next feature made. It's a interesting time in the film industry, especially for like independent film. It's not very easy, but there's no excuses. Got to make a film, so it's just trying to find those ways of making something. I think that's it. It's just and I think I mean, Boy in the Corner was my first feature, but I'm definitely going down a different route. It's not going to be drama. It's probably going to be more of a darker genre, something like thriller, horror, something like that.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, something I'm a lot more excited about and a bit more passionate about. And yeah, just I think I just want to lean into more fun cinema, if you know what I mean. I love making people think and driving home messages, but I feel like that can be wrapped in a more commercial ball of fun, if you know what I mean. So that's what I'm working on next.
Well, that's awesome, and yeah, it's really cool to hear what you got coming up. And I think it's also admirable that for both of you guys, to take on different projects and create something different than just kind of putting yourselves into a specific genre and doing a rinse and repeat but a different kind of story. Like I said, Joshua, you challenge yourself more to a thriller horror than like a drama, and Oscar, of course, challenge yourself to a musical as such, right, which you've not done as such before with Cycles of Love with Black Spots as well. So Joshua, I look forward to see what you got coming up. I would love to come to the Gloucester Film Festival, but in April I'm on my honeymoon at the time, so I won't be able to make that one. But hopefully season 3.
Yeah.
But I'd really love to meet you guys in person as well. We've been trying to get it to happen for a bit of time, so
we'll sort you out a ticket when you can come as well.
Oh, well, thanks, man. Season 3, I'll be there.
Look forward to it.
And Oscar, how about yourself? What have you got coming up? I know you're working on a movie with Henry Fisk, right?
I am, yeah. So that's kind of, like, to echo Josh said, it's a pretty hard time at the minute to be getting films off the ground. So I decided to throw myself into something with my own company on this occasion, smaller scale, but as big of a story. And it's called The Devil in the Flesh, and it's a reimagining of a 20s novel. Or a semi-novel autobiography. And yeah, Henry Fisk from Cycles is starring in it. We're reunited. And, the universe can still exist because we've decided that he can be a descendant of younger brother. So it doesn't so everyone do not panic, It's like his great-great-grandfather. It's set in 1940s during World War II about an older woman who volunteers for the Land Army while her husband is away fighting in the war, and enters a rapturous love affair with a teenage boy. And that's what it's about. Yes.
Sounds interesting. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we started on some, some of the shots so far and some of the scenes, but it's all split up. So we started a couple of weeks ago, got another shoot date this month at the end, and then the bulk of it with Henry and Elizabeth Grace, who are playing the two leads, takes place in May. and will be wrapped around the end of May. So hopefully not too long of a turnaround either, and I can get you guys that screener.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Well, I appreciate you thinking of us both anyway for a screener as well.
Yeah, honestly, thank you.
And I know it's maybe a bit too early to say Oscar, but do you think that will be like a late 2025 release, or do you think we're looking at post-production maybe going into early 26?
I don't know. I'd like it done by the end of the year, but also if I've learned anything or if there's a takeaway from Melodrive, I really don't want any brutal deadline on anything ever again. Melodrive and the tensions it created on the deadlines that were put on us were brutal for such an ambitious film. We didn't have a lot of footage because an indie never does, but what we were trying to achieve was ambitious and there was no clear-cut answer. And it's kind of the same with this. It's very artistic and abstract in areas, and the goal is to have it done by the end of the year, but if not, that's also okay, because it was so stressful last time that pressure is being relinquished.
Yeah, nice breather, nice bit of like not as much like pressure as you said, like compared to Melodrive as such. Yeah,
and just the time to get it right. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think me and Joshy were so lucky on Melodrive that we got it right in the amount of time. And yeah, you can say trust the process, trust the time, 100%. But at the same time, I think there is it comes down to our prep again. All of those years talking about it and it existing in our minds and in conversation is why it was manageable. But I still think we're very lucky. It's testament to Joshy to being able to get it done and edited in that time frame and to his skill set, on that computer of his. But I do think there's so much about it. It was just meant to be. It was luck. We cared and we wanted it to work, but that doesn't mean we can turn everything around in 3 months ever again. And nor would we want to. And it's like, I'm not going to play with fire. We did it. We got it right. But we're not going to do it again.
No, lesson learned as such. Yeah, I can imagine many late nights for Joshy in front of a laptop screen, energy drinks galore to keep him awake, to keep going, to get their deadline hit. And coffee. There you go. I do want to say to anyone who's watching live or after the fact, by the way, firstly, the link to my co-host channel is down below in the description box for Anthony and Perez's YouTube. He's also covered Melodrive in a movie review if you want to check that out. But also, I've left links to check out Melodrive if you're in the UK or US on Amazon Prime. So those links are down below, along with Oscar's socials and Joshy Lee's socials. So you can check what these fellas are up to as well. But I do want to say thank you to Joshy and Oscar and Megan. Of course, we did have Megan for joining us for the stream. I also wanted to thank Anthony as well. Anthony, any final words, man?
No, I'm excited to see what you guys do next. I appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with us, and it was just great. It was great to be able to really dive deep about this creative process. That just adds so much to the film. I'm very much the kind of person who loves seeing movies, but when I watch the behind the scenes, and it just adds so much context. It gives me so much more appreciation for the hard work, the struggles, the ups, the downs, the things that went perfectly, the things that went terribly, but also still panned out. So I appreciate you guys sharing those stories with us and just kind of giving us a peek behind the curtain.
Yeah, no, it's been really nice to talk about it. We don't have a lot of options now. And so, whenever something comes up, especially with you guys, it's nice to take a deep dive because, even with the challenges, there was so much joy to come out of this. And it's nice to continuously remind ourselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I think it's always great to dive deeper into that behind the scenes and give people more context under face value, the finished project that you see, or actually what went into that to give you more appreciation as well. Definitely agree. But yeah, thank you to everyone who's watching live or after the fact. Please check out Melodrive, support these awesome guys down below and their project. Again, keep an eye out for them. But yeah, until next time, guys, we will see you later. So, see you everyone.
Bye.